If you're watching this, don't click away, because this story begins in the most ordinary place imaginable, a rundown hostel in the heart of Istanbul, where the air always smelled of saffron tea and cigarette smoke, and where strangers passed like ships in the night, except one night changed everything. It was a cloudy afternoon when Laura checked into room 1625, heartbroken and exhausted from the chaos she left behind in London. She wasn't running away, she told herself. She was just breathing, relearning how to exist. She'd found the hostel on a backpacker's blog, a place where solo travelers could disappear into the crowd, a perfect hiding spot for someone like her. The receptionist gave her a plastic key card and a warning smile. "It's shared dormitory. Don't mind the quiet guy, he's always there, but he doesn't talk much." That's the first time she heard about him, the quiet guy. Room 16 had 4 bunks, 2 occupied. One by a noisy Brazilian named Tasha who greeted Laura with a hug and stories about dancing in Cappadocia, and the other, a corner bed, curtains drawn shut, headphones always in. The quiet guy. He barely moved, and when he did, it was like a shadow flitting between silence. He had dark hair, always wore a hoodie, and he kept to himself like a monk on a vow. Laura didn't care much at first. She had her own burdens. A failed engagement, a creative writing career going nowhere, and a growing fear that she'd never really figure out who she was supposed to be. But something about that corner of room 16 pulled at her, like a page in a book that keeps reappearing no matter how many times you try to turn it. One night, during a hostel rooftop dinner, Laura asked Tasha, "What's his deal?" "The quiet guy." Tasha shrugged. "He's been here longer than anyone. Like, 3 months. Doesn't go out much. I think he's writing or something. A book. Maybe," Tasha said, sipping her Turkish coffee. "Or hiding from someone." Laura laughed, but the thought stuck. That night, Laura returned early. Everyone was out drinking or wandering the markets. She thought she'd have the room to herself. But he was there, sitting on the floor near the window, staring at the city lights like they were trying to tell him a secret. She dropped her bag softly and said, "Hi." No response. She tried again, "You must be the famous quiet guy." He didn't look at her directly, but his lips twitched, almost a smile. "So they've started calling me that now." His voice surprised her, deep, careful, like someone unlearning how to speak. "I'm Laura," she said, inching closer but keeping respectful distance. "Eli." And just like that, a name broke the silence. They didn't talk much after that. But something shifted. The next morning, there was an extra tea bag beside the kettle. Another day, she found her bunk made up neatly while she was gone. And once, during a power cut, he handed her his only flashlight without a word. The others came and went, loud and careless, always buzzing with new places and Instagram stories. But Eli stayed, unmoving, unseen, until one rainy afternoon when Laura couldn't take it anymore. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Really?" He was sketching something in his notebook then, a drawing of the Hagia Sophia, she realized. Detailed, precise, almost mournful. "I could ask you the same," he said, eyes still on the page. And maybe it was the rain, or the way the city lights blurred through the window, but Laura told him everything. About her ex-fiancé who had cheated with her best friend. About quitting her job. About how tired she was of pretending she was okay. When she finished, there was a long silence. Then Eli finally looked up. "I came here after my brother died," he said. "We were supposed to travel together. Backpack through Europe. I kept the plan. Except now it's just me. And it doesn't feel real. None of it does." It hit her like a blow to the chest. And in that moment, silence didn't feel awkward anymore. It felt sacred. Over the next few weeks, they found each other in stolen moments. Sharing breakfast. Swapping book recommendations. One time, Laura caught him sketching her. Without asking, he showed it to her. Her, sitting on the hostel steps, looking lost and beautiful. "You made me look better than I do. I just drew what I saw," he said simply. The walls between them began to crumble, brick by brick. One night, as the call to prayer echoed through the city, they sat on the rooftop under a shared blanket. The hostel parties buzzed below, but they had their own world above. "Do you believe in fate?" she asked, her voice barely louder than the wind. "I believe some people are meant to collide," he said. "Even if just for a chapter." She didn't know then, neither of them did, that their story was much more than a chapter. But the truth, Eli wasn't just a backpacker. And what she'd uncover soon would leave her breathless. Laura never believed in destiny. Not really. But as the days turned into weeks, and her heart began to thaw beside Eli's quiet presence, she started to wonder if Istanbul itself had been waiting for her. Waiting for them. She didn't know when it changed, when looking at Eli started to feel like home. Maybe it was the way he always noticed the little things. Like when she was too quiet during breakfast and he'd gently place her favorite chocolate on the table without asking. Or how he walked a little slower when they explored the spice bazaar, as if he wanted to give her space to think. There were moments between them now. Warm, magnetic, undeniable. But then came the night of the storm. The rain battered the rooftop hard enough to cancel all the hostel's usual chaos. Most of the backpackers stayed in, complaining about bad Wi-Fi and wet shoes. Laura sat by the kitchen, writing in her journal. Eli was nowhere to be seen. It had been hours. Something in her chest felt tight. She climbed the creaking stairs to room 16 and opened the door slowly. The room was dark. Only the flicker of a candle glowed near Eli's bunk. And he wasn't in it. But his sketchbook lay open on the bed. She didn't mean to look. But the pages fell open like secrets. What she saw made her breath catch. Page after page of drawings. Not just of her, but of others. A woman with a child. A man in a hospital bed. A funeral. A passport. A closed suitcase. Names. Maps. Coordinates. Handwritten notes in the margins like journal entries, but raw, emotional, personal. And then, there was her. Not just sketches. But words. Laura's heart pounded. She stepped back, confused, guilty. That's when the door creaked open, and Eli walked in, drenched from the rain. Their eyes locked. "You read it," he said softly. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. He took off his hoodie, his hands trembling slightly. "I wasn't hiding the sketchbook. I just didn't want you to see me like that. Too much. You're not just a backpacker, are you?" She whispered. He looked away, jaw tightening. "No." The silence that followed felt like an ocean between them. Finally, he spoke again. "My name isn't Eli. It's Elias Monroe. My family owns Monroe International, hotels, resorts, all that crap. I ran from it after my brother died. Everyone expected me to step up, be the next face of the empire. But I couldn't breathe in that world. I couldn't live." Laura blinked. "You're that Monroe." He nodded. "I came here to be invisible. To disappear. But then you showed up, and suddenly, I didn't want to be invisible anymore." Laura sat on the edge of her bunk. Stunned. He knelt in front of her, eyes pleading. "I know I should have told you. But for once, I wanted to be seen for who I am. Not the name, not the money. Just me." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You should have trusted me. I know." She stood. "So what now? Do you go back to that world?" "I don't want to," he said. "Not without you." Laura turned away, but he gently touched her hand. "Laura, you made me feel human again. Like maybe I deserve a second chance." She looked at him, really looked. The pain, the fear, the quiet strength. The man who made her laugh without saying much. The man who held her when she cried without needing to ask why. "I came here to disappear too," she said quietly. "Maybe we both just needed to be found." He smiled through the sadness. "Then let's stop hiding." They didn't kiss. Not yet. Some things bloomed slowly, tenderly. But the next morning, they checked out together. Elias, took her hand as they walked down the cobblestone street. They weren't sure what came next. But for the first time in a long time, both of them believed in nexts. Together. Because sometimes, the person you think is just passing through, ends up staying forever. If you're still watching, thank you. Because the most important part of this story is the one that happens after the big twist. After the secrets are revealed. After the silence breaks. Because love doesn't just begin with butterflies, it's built in the moments when two broken people choose to stay. Laura and Elias didn't leave Istanbul like a fairy tale couple riding into the sunset. No, they left holding each other's fears in their palms, uncertain, fragile, real. Their next stop was Cappadocia. He wanted her to see the sunrise from the sky. So at 4 a.m., huddled under a shared blanket in a hot air balloon basket, they floated above the world. The sky bloomed in orange and gold. Below them, the valleys looked like pages from a forgotten storybook. Why did you bring me here? Lara asked, wind brushing her hair back. Elias looked at her like he was memorizing every angle of her face. Because for the first time in years, I feel weightless. And I wanted you to know what that feels like, too. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. But when the balloon landed, their reality did too. Elias's phone had hundreds of missed calls. His assistant, his mother, news articles. Someone from the hostel had leaked a photo just like that. Their bubble shattered. Reporters started waiting outside every hostel, guest house, and even Lara's inbox filled up with offers, book deals, interviews, podcast requests. She wasn't just Lara anymore. She was the girl with the billionaire. It scared her. I don't want this, she said one night in their small hotel room. I didn't ask for any of this. I'll make it stop, Elias said, jaw clenched. I'll do whatever it takes. But she saw the look in his eyes. The familiar war between duty and freedom. Between the world he'd escaped, and the one clawing him back. You can't hide forever, Eli, she said softly. I can try, he whispered. But he didn't. 2 days later, he flew to London for a board meeting. Lara stayed behind. He said it would only be for 2 days. It turned into 2 weeks. She received texts at first. Then silence. 1 month. She watched the news alone, in a sleepy cafe in Antalya. Her heart dropped. He'd gone back, without a goodbye. People around her kept whispering, pointing. The girl who'd been left behind. The summer fairy tale that crashed under the weight of reality. But what they didn't know, what no one could see, was the love she carried like a bruise on her soul. Quiet, deep, still burning, Lara returned to London eventually. She began writing again. Her first novel, The Quiet Guy in Room 16. Publishers loved it. It hit bestseller lists. But when reporters asked if it was based on a true story, she only smiled and said, some people pass through your life like a breeze. Some, like a storm. 6 months later, at a reading event in a small bookshop, she saw him again. Standing in the back, no cameras, no entourage, just him, older, a little leaner, but those same quiet eyes. When the event ended, he waited until everyone else had gone. Hi, he said, voice low and aching. She froze. You left, she said. I didn't want to. But my brother left me a mess I had to clean. I had to go back, to close the door properly. So I could open a new one. Her lips trembled. You could have called. I wanted to earn the right to stand in front of you again first. She didn't say anything. He stepped forward and placed something on the table. It was his old sketchbook. Open to a fresh page. A drawing of her, reading from her book. I read it, he said, voice cracking. Every word. And it made me remember what I forgot. That the best chapters are the ones you don't plan. She stared at the sketch. Her heart shattered and rebuilt itself in the span of a breath. He looked at her. Lara, I don't have a grand speech. Just one question. He reached into his coat pocket. Pulled out 2 plane tickets. Room 16 is still open in Istanbul. Want to go back? Start over. Lara smiled through tears. Only if we get the top bunks this time. They laughed. And as the bookstore lights dimmed, they walked out, not as a quiet guy and a lost girl, but as 2 people who finally chose each other, without fear.